What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. This is the Rampage meetup game. This was quite a game, and coming a few days after my biggest win. As you can tell from the title, things don't quite go as well in this one, but still very excited to share it. There are some huge hands, a couple hands that I'm really proud of, and a couple that I'm not so proud of. But as is appropriate, I will be punting off some stacks in this episode, so please leave a like, leave a comment down below, share with your friends. I could certainly use the encouragement, and I accept any constructive criticism that I'm sure you will have. So without any further ado, let's get right into the hands. We start things off with ace-king of clubs in the hijack. I open to 15. We get one caller from the big blind. The flop comes king 10-8, rainbow. He checks, I c-bet out for $15. He snap calls. The turn is the 10 of clubs. Pretty good card. He checks, I check back. The river is the 7 of hearts. He checks again, I bet out $30. He thinks for a little while and folds. Small hand, but nice to start things off with a win. In the next hand, we have pocket 10s on the button. Under the gun opens to 20. Middle position calls. I just call as it's an under the gun raise, so his range should be pretty strong here. I don't want to 3-bet, then get 4-bet from under the gun and have to fold. So I make the call, and the small blind comes along as well. The flop comes king, jack, deuce, rainbow. Big blind checks. Under the gun now c-bets for $50. It folds to me, and to be honest, this board hits under the gun's opening range pretty hard, but I don't want to release just yet, so I make the call. Big blind comes along as well. Turn is now the ace of spades. Under the gun continues for 125. Even though we have a gut shot, now we really beat absolutely nothing. The hand that under the gun has represented hits this board super hard. There's a third player behind as well, so unfortunately I make the fold. Big blind does call though, and the river runs out a blank. Big blind ended up having a set of deuces, and we never get to see what under the gun was betting out with. However, she's a very aggressive player, and this is something we will keep in mind for later. In our next hand, we have queen 10 in the hijack. I open things up to $15. The cutoff, button, and small blind all call. We are 4 ways to a flop of king 8-3, rainbow. Small blind checks. I continue for 25. The action goes fold, fold, and only the small blind calls. The turn is now the king of diamonds. I continue for $50. He calls pretty quickly. I put him on an 8 or a middling pair like 9s or 10s. Anything better, such as jacks or queens, likely would have squeezed pre-flop. Queens are also unlikely because I hold a queen in my hand. So when the river is now the queen of diamonds, he checks and I consider my options. As we just backed into a ton of value here, I really don't see the need to bet again. I could try to go for some really thin value against 9s, 10s, any of those hands that I described, but I just don't know if we're gonna get a call in this situation. And just in case I'm wrong, I decide to go for some pot control and check back. He announces out loud, I have an 8. I flip over the queen 10 and he looks very annoyed. Sir, this is the Rampage meetup game. There are going to be some luck box rivers. We take this one down. In the next hand, we have king jack off on the button. There's a couple limps to me. I open things up to $20. Big blind and middle position both call. Flop comes king 4-3, 2 hearts. It checks to me and I continue again for 25. Big blind folds. Middle position now check raises up to 85. I think for a little bit, it feels like it could easily be a set, but I'm not quite ready to give up at this point. Middle position has 315 left behind. I make the call. The turn comes the 2 of hearts. It connects with the board, but I really doubt it changes anything, the way this hand is played so far, so I kind of consider this card to be a blank. He now leads out for 105. Again, because the turn didn't really change anything, and I do consider it to be a blank, if we're calling on the flop, we should also be calling on this turn. No need to raise or shove. The best move here is to call. So I go ahead and make the call. River now is a very interesting card, the 5 of clubs. Now, my opponent checks to me. I'm a little concerned that I may have just lost to a random ace here that backed its way into a straight, but I don't see why he would slow down if that's the case. Some wild thoughts do enter my mind about bluff shoving here. I could just as easily have an ace, and this player may be sharing that same concern, which is why he now checked over to me. However, I do have a ton of value, just like in the last hand, so I like to check back. And it's the absolute best case scenario as our opponent turns over king 10 offsuit. A little aggressive with the flop check raise there from my opponent, but I love the play. I table my hand and we take it down. This next hand, although somewhat early on in the session, is in my opinion the most interesting hand from this entire vlog. I wish it happened later towards the end so there could be a bigger build-up, but it happened near the beginning of the session. We have queen 8 of clubs in the hijack. There's a straddle with 2 callers behind. I make the call. Now the straddler pops it up to $50. Middle position comes along, and the straddler is the loosest player at the table. She's the player from earlier that I said we were going to keep an eye on. This is the player I want to get involved with. So, even though it's a somewhat speculative holding with Queen 8, I make the call as well. The flop comes King 8 deuce, rainbow. The straddler now leads again for $75. Middle position folds. With second pair and a backdoor flush draw in the situation, I am more than happy to make the call against a very aggressive player. The turn now comes another king, the king of diamonds. She leads again, this time for 200. I have about 1,200 or so in my stack, and she covers me. I really think I'm ahead here, and I just feel like she won't be able to withstand a raise. I feel like she's just aggroing out, trying to get me to fold. So this is where I make, in my opinion, both a great play and a huge mistake simultaneously. I consider jamming, but if she's bluffing here, I think any raise should get the job done regardless of size. So I pop it up to $450. She thinks for a little bit, looks very confused about the situation, and then goes all in. I really hate this spot, but I still just don't believe her. The mistake that I made, and I realized it in the moment, was that my raise was so small, way too small. And a bunch of you guys have commented on my prior vlogs letting me know. Unfortunately, this happened back in November, and I wish I could go back in time and change the past, but here we are. I should have made it something like $600 or $700 to go. Unfortunately, she jams over top, and I'm in a tough position. I don't believe her whatsoever. I'm looking at the board. We still have second pair here. I do not put her on a king. I really think she's doing this with ace high or nothing. Doesn't even necessarily have to have ace high in this situation. So I think for quite a while here, and I eventually decide to call. We decide to run it once. The river is a jack of clubs. Our opponent sheepishly turns over the ace of clubs. I knew it. I knew she was bluffing. I am so excited. This is a huge spot. I'm so glad I trusted my gut until she rolls over her second card, which is the jack of hearts. That's a kick to the stomach. A little bit of a slow roll there. I'm kind of having flashbacks to the pocket sevens hand from 2 weeks ago, where I was right, made the correct hero call, and then lost it on the river. This is a tough one. Guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. In the moment, I'm still very, very happy I made the call. The entire table, including her, is very impressed when I turn over my hand. The goal of playing poker isn't necessarily to impress other people, it's to win. But it was, in my opinion, a hell of a call, and unfortunately, we just didn't get the win in this one. She was able to hit one of her 6 outs against us. We're just kind of running into it here, unfortunately. We're down 1 bullet, but playing well, the game is very good. So I reload, calm down, and settle in for more. A little while later, we have ace-jack under the gun +2. We've lost a bit of our stack in some non-very memorable hands, just chasing flushes or having to fold second pair on the river, so I only have about 500 or so left at this point. There's a straddle on, I'm first to act under the gun, so I just call. There's 5 callers, and the straddler pops it to 125. I've underread my hand in the situation. We didn't limp under the gun just to fold, so I make the call as well. The cutoff, the button, and the small blind all call. So we are 5 ways to a flop of 6-4 deuce, all diamonds. Again, at this point, I have about 450 or so left in my stack. I do a quick check. We do have the jack of diamonds. The small blind leads for $250. The straddler folds. This is the same player from the prior hand that hit the jack on the river against us and has been very aggressively bluffing all throughout the day. I think there's no way she has the ace, king, or queen of diamonds here. She double called, pre-flop, never raised. This almost always indicates weakness. A big hand had 2 different opportunities to raise and failed to do so. So I think at best, she has a very small flush. We have 2 overs with the jack of diamonds. We have 2 opportunities to hit a bigger flush, and there's a chance she has nothing at all. So in this situation, I'm short stacked. I don't believe her. I jam all in. This play should look extremely strong, and unless someone actually did flop a flush, which is hard to do, it should fold back around to the small blind, and we'll see what she has this time. Unfortunately, my plans are completely foiled when the button calls. I didn't really count on that. The small blind does end up making the fold, so at least I was right in that regard. The button asks once or twice. I tell him I don't care. We decide on twice, and he shows pocket 8s with the 8 of diamonds. Didn't really count on this hand. Not really sure why he jammed in this spot, but here we are. It's essentially a coin flip. We have 4 cards to come. I feel pretty good about our chances to at least chop this pot and maybe win outright. Unfortunately, not a single diamond, ace, or jack on either run out. And just like that, there goes buy-in number 2. We are getting absolutely torched here today. We're down 2 buy-ins in 2 hours, and I gotta be honest, guys, it's a little disheartening. Haven't had the opportunity to play with Ethan yet. He's been making the rounds to all the tables, but hasn't made it to mine. I still want to survive at least long enough to be able to play with him. So with that, we're on to buy-in number 3. In the next hand, we have King Jack offsuit again. I open to 15, and we get 2 callers, the button and the small blind. The flop comes King 10-4. Small blind checks. I play this one a little tricky and check back from middle position. The turn is now the King of Diamonds. Checks to me again, and it's time to put some money in. I bet out $20. The button calls, who's been a pretty tight player all day, and the small blind folds. The river is complete blank, and based on the image of the button, plus my own getting stacked twice, and I'm a little tilted, I go for a slightly bigger sizing here, hoping to get a call. I bet out $85, thinking it'll look a little bluffy. The button looks very confused, and assembles chips, thinks for a minute, makes the call, and we table our hand and take it down. We finally won a hand. It is possible. Now it's a small hand, but Rome wasn't built in a day, although apparently it can be torn down in one. So we're on the right road and a lot more work to do. In the next hand, we have King 10 of clubs on the button, a whole lot of King X today for some reason. Under the gun, our nemesis from earlier, opens to 20. Under the gun plus 1 calls, I bump it up to $50. Both players make the call. The flop is a pretty good one. It comes King 10-6 rainbow. Checks to me. I decide to go for a little bit of a trappy play here. When you have top 2 pair, it's really hard for your opponents to have much of anything else on this disjointed of a board, so I check. The turn now comes the 5 of hearts. Under the gun checks. Under the gun plus 1 leads for 75. I make the call. Under the gun folds. The river is now the 2 of spades. It checks to me, and I decide to go for max value in this situation. I make it $225. Under the gun folds, but to my surprise, under the gun plus 1 makes the call. We show our hand, and he mucks. Slow playing the hand worked out for us really well this time. Checking the flop, just calling on the turn, we were able to get max value from a non-believer on the river, and just like that, Rome is getting a little closer to being rebuilt. In our next hand, we once again have King X in the cutoff, King Jack this time. I make it $15 to go, we get 3 callers. The flop comes Jack 10-6. I continue for 25, the button pops it to 75. I make the call. The turn comes the 7 of spades. I check, he bets out $200. Now we still have top pair and the second nut flush draw to go along with it, so I make the call. The river is an interesting card. It's the King of Clubs. Pretty nice consolation prize here. A spade would have been the best card to come, specifically the ace of spades, but top 2 is still a very strong hand to have. So I check, and our opponent fires out $300. Another tough situation. It just doesn't feel like a flush here, but that's certainly what he's repping. A straight, such as ace-queen, is possible with 1 spade, but when our opponent only calls 15 pre-flop, ace-queen seems unlikely. Queen-9, that's a hand he could have. That's one possibility. But with the flush out there, would a straight really be betting this big? I'd be able to get away from this with just a pair of jacks, but top 2 feels too strong to lay down. So I close my eyes, put in the chips, and we get shown ace-queen off for a very, very hidden straight. No spade anywhere to be found in this guy's hand. Gotta give it to this guy. Very bold play, and it worked out for him. The Rampage meetup game, Luckbox Rivers, do continue, just not for me. Okay, finally, Rampage has made it to my table. He's sitting to my right, so I have position on him. I'm so excited, can't wait to play some hands with Ethan. Our very first hand, we have King Queen of Diamonds in the straddle. I'm on his left. He starts things off with a $60 bet pre-flop. I call with only $300 left behind. The button comes along as well. The flop is decent. King 4. I check for deception and it checks around. The turn is a 6. Rampage now leads out for $45 and I pop it up to $100. It folds back around to Rampage, who takes a look at my stack and folds pretty quickly. I should have just checked and continued to let him blast off on a river, but still happy to take down a small pot. They've been so few and far between recently that I'll take it. In the last hand of the day for me, you can actually find this hand on Rampage's vlog. Rampage was allowed to film a Borgata, so go check out vlog number 501, timestamp 1246 to 1349 to see this hand from his perspective. You don't really get to see me in it, but it's still kind of cool that it's the same hand from 2 different vloggers' perspective. His, much better than mine, but here we go. So, I look down at ace-jack off on the button. The hijack opened things up to $25. Rampage raises to $75, and I'm next to act. I do consider just jamming in this spot, as I only have about 500 or so left. I know Ethan likes to gamble, so there's some chance he'll call here, but considering I'll be able to play this hand in position, I do elect to just make the call. The flop comes 10-5-3, rainbow. The hijack checks. Rampage continues for 125. Pretty easy fold, right? Well, you see, the thing is, I've been getting my ass kicked all day, and the guy to my right is a very well-known aggressive bluffer. You may have heard of him. His name is Rampage for a reason. So I have a short stack, 2 overcards, and a board that he really shouldn't be connected with whatsoever. It's very plausible that we're up against ace queen, ace king, maybe even the same hand, or a small pocket pair that wouldn't want to withstand an all-in. So I decide to take the high variance play and jam for my remaining stack of $400. What I did not expect is the hijack to re-jam over top of me with a slightly larger stack of $440. At this point, Ethan announces, well, one of you has to have a set here, and open folds kings. Kings! Well, at least we got one better hand out of the way. The only problem is that he was spot on with his read, and our opponent flips over pocket tens for top set. The run out is clean, and he takes it down. After this hand, I'm down 3 buy-ins and not in the mood to keep playing. I gather my things, thank Ethan for putting this event together, shake his hand, and head out. Well, that was an interesting session. Thanks for watching, guys, for making it this far. That was not really a whole lot to say there. Played bad, ran bad. After that Queen 8 hand, I was so proud of myself for making that call, and then it just didn't go my way at the end, and I think after that I just played poorly. Probably a situation I should have recognized and got up, taken a walk from the table. Something I highly recommend doing if you find yourself tilting or not playing well. Just get up, take a walk. Your chips will still be there when you get back. The players will still be there when you get back, but I know it's something I struggle with personally and I highly recommend doing. Really don't have a whole lot to say, just unfortunately, things did not go well in this session. There's gonna be times like that, but still wanna share it with you guys, share all the ups and the downs, not just the highlights. Definitely have to play better, and will be doing my best to improve my game going forward. In for 3,000, out for 0. Wiped out my largest win in the last video with my largest loss. So I guess when you look at it that way, it's just kind of a net 0, but certainly doesn't feel good in the moment. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. I could use it. I'm on my way to the store right now to see if I can still afford eggs. I'm gonna be honest, guys, I don't know if I can afford these eggs after that loss.